Thank you for being here today, Andrew.
Hi Jasper, great to be here. We haven't spoken for quite some time.
It's time. So, Andrew, could you introduce yourself to the viewers and tell a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Andrew Chubb. I'm the CEO of Awalé Resources, listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange as ARIC, ARIC, and is the ticker. And we're exploring for gold and copper in we're an advanced stage exploration project in Côte d'Ivoire.
So, how does Awalé stand out from other junior explorers?
Well, I think that's the thing that I just said. That we're an advanced explorer in that we have made significant discoveries on the project already. We've got a joint venture with Newmont as well, so where Newmont is funding exploration on two of our properties, so roughly 1/3 of our properties, and on top of that, we're just starting to get our 100% Awalé permits granted, and we've just recently had a maiden drill program on our 100% Awalé properties as well. So there's opportunity for us to make more discoveries on 100% Awalé ground outside of the joint venture, which is pretty exciting for us.
Perfect. So, how much money has now been spent in the JV, which is $15 million total?
At the end of last year, we'd spent just over $8 million. And we've had a very active drill quarter. We started a drill campaign actually in December, and by the end of this month, we will have drilled about 16,000 meters on the joint venture, and just over 2,000 meters on the 100% Awalé ground on the Fremen target. So all told, around about 18,000 meters by the end of the quarter, and we've just started reporting results in the last month from BBM. So we'll see continuous results flow over the next 2 to 3 months from the joint venture targets as well as the 100% Awalé target.
Do you expect to have spent all the $15 million by the end of the year?
Look, I think we should be close. If not, it'll be close. And so probably definitely in Q1 next year, but potentially toward the end of this year we'll be there.
Could you give us an overview of how much drilling you will perform until the rainy season starts in June, July, and how that will be allocated? Preliminary.
Yeah, sure. So the budget for between December and now was for 18,000 meters of drilling, and the split on that drilling. So there's some a little bit over 2,000 meters that's gone into our 100% Awalé target at Fremen of RC drilling. And then the split on the other drilling is we've drilled 6 holes at Empire for a bit over 1,000 meters of diamond, and then we've drilled I think about a bit over 6,000 meters at BBM main, the discovery area, and then of diamond drilling as well. And then we've done around 2,500 meters all told at Charger. And then there is we've been doing RC scout drilling or discovery drilling along strike from BBM. So that's I guess roughly somewhere in the realms of 1,500 meters there. And then there is another between 1,500 and 2,000 meters planned for Lando, which is a new, it's a target, a geochem target that we talked about a couple of years ago, but now we finally brought it into the budget. So geochem was 4 kilometer long, really nice copper gold moly anomaly. And so we're doing a combination of RC and diamond drilling there for about 2,500 meters. Yeah, 2,500 meters, something like that at Lando. So that's the rough breakdown on the drilling that we've done this quarter, and so effectively we'll start drilling again before the wet season comes in late April or early May. But we're finalising that program like as we speak. So we've got results coming through now. We've started announcing results from BBM, and really the program we're planning up is, we can base it on the geology that we've seen, a lot of it anyway. So, but there will be more drilling before the wet season comes in July.
If I count correctly, that adds up to about 16,000 meters. So you have a little bit more to dispose of, to
Yeah, so
allocate
that's 16.
before rainy season.
So the budget was around about 16. The budget was to drill roughly 16,000 meters on the joint venture, and 2,000 meters on the 100% Awalé target at Fremen. So for from, I guess, company wide, that was 18,000 meters to the end of this month, and then there will be additional drilling in May, June, to take us into the wet season. But that program is being planned up and finalised as we speak. So we'll see where that comes in at.
Okay, let's start with. So you drilled actually 15,000 meters. No, sorry, 1,500 meters on the BBM Trend.
Yeah, that's right. So RC drilling, just scout drill lines. So we had the geochem targets there. So we did quite a significant IP program that followed the BBM Trend all the way along from Fremen all the way up through to up near Lando. So from that geochemistry and the IP, we just planned some scout drill lines across where we've interpreted the BBM structure to be going. So I think we'll have an announcement on that next week. So just explaining where those holes have actually gone in, and so that program is
But
very.
Is that Bobber and Fett? Bobber and Fett, sorry.
No, we haven't drilled Bobber and Fett at this stage. They're just BBM satellites that we've drilled. So Bobber and Fett, we want to do like we always do, I guess, that extra 10% to make sure that our drilling is well targeted. So we'll do that now, and then Bobber and Fett will come in a little bit later down the track.
So I mean, you haven't finalized drill plan for I guess April, May, or really May and June. But is there any target that you will follow up on for sure?
Yeah, we'll do more drilling at Charger. So the drilling that we've done there has been interesting. I think we've always talked about Charger being, we need to try and work out what the geometry of Charger is. And so we've had a really nice success rate in intercepting the breccia target at Charger. So we're pretty happy with what we've seen, and so we can plan up drilling based on geology, and then fine tune that before we start drilling again in April, May, with the results as they come through. So that's been really good. BBM. Look, the drill program we drilled, a bit over 3,000 meters of diamond at BBM, and that was bringing the drill spacing into roughly 100 meter centers over about 1 kilometer of the BBM target. And really, that's done a couple of things for us. It's proven the fact that we've been telling everyone that it's a really it's very consistent mineralization, or what we would call robust mineralization over significant widths. And as we've brought the drill spacing in, it's absolutely confirmed that, and it's also absolutely confirmed the geometry. So we limited that drilling to sort of 300 to 350 meters below surface, which is sort of a conceptual open pit for something that is that sort of width and strike. But now that we feel like we've got a very good handle on that 50 odd degree plunge to the northwest, we can plan a couple of deeper holes there as well. That we're confident that it'll just continue along that plunge. And with holes like the hole we just reported, 119, that we reported earlier this week, there's some really nice grade right at the footwall within that as well. So which is particularly encouraging to see some consistent higher grades right at that footwall contact when you're in the middle of that plunge. So that's encouraging as well, and to us warrants a couple of some deeper holes at BBM as well. And then with the discovery drilling, you really do need to see the results. So Lando BBM satellite Fremen, we're waiting to see some results, but I haven't seen the BBM chips, but some of the chips at Fremen look interesting, like there's alteration and sulfides and things like that. So maybe that will warrant a couple of follow-up diamond holes to get a handle on the geology, a better handle on the geology at Fremen.
And Empire, does that warrant follow-up in this first half of the year?
Well, the idea was we'll see how it comes back, like with results. But the idea with that was there was a paucity of drilling from way back when we did that drilling with Awalé. There was a paucity of drilling at shallower depths. So we've did that shallower drilling just to firm up the grade distribution and potentially the plunge. So it looks like the plunge that we'd modelled is real, but we'll wait to see results, and it may warrant a couple of deeper holes as well, because those systems tend to, once you've got the plunge worked out, those systems tend to just keep going.
Where are the rigs currently?
Lando. They're at Lando, and we'll be, like I said, we'll be finished that drilling before the end of the month. So it's like I said, a combination of diamond and RC. The diamond holes are going in where the topography is a little bit more steep and difficult to get all the RC equipment in there. So we've got some diamond holes planned up to cover that. And the idea from that is that it is a very big anomaly. So we just wanted to get a series of what we would call system fences all the way across the anomaly. So we understand, so we start to get a handle on what the potential source of that anomaly is.
So BBM, maybe you firstly just could briefly explain what you got at BBM, how's the mineralization hosted, and you have drilled 22 holes. What was the purpose of that?
Yeah, so at BBM, the drilling was really almost like we would call it resource development drilling. So it's focused on that sort of core 1 to 1.2 kilometer zone where we made the BBM discovery, and we'd always a lot of the drilling was over 200 meters apart, and so we've always said that we see it as a really consistently mineralized, robust system, and so the idea is that we've brought that drilling into 100 meter spacing now. And to I guess statistically prove what we saw in the geology, and so that's what we've shown. So so you can see now that all these, there's all those dots are roughly on 100 meter sections, with the holes sort of planned out. So along this long section, we've tried to have a hole or a pierce point into the mineralization on a 100 meter grid. So effectively, so if this line LL is where the long section is drawn, and basically that drags all those holes into pierce points along that section. So I'll just show you that next. And so here we have that here we have that long section with a grade thickness heat map. So in this zone here, we've got the average. The grades are the widths are generally 45 to over 50 meters at roughly on an average of 2 grams. And then sort of we go out from that, but there is this robust higher grade 300 meter wide plunging chute in there, which is really nice, and that is absolutely open at depth. And the last drill campaign, we did a couple of deeper holes, which are intercepting at a bit over 400 metres below surface, or roughly 350 to 400 metres below surface. And you can see that those are just outside the plunge. So we do need to bring some other holes, some deeper drilling in a BBM in that future program that I just talked about, which will test that down plunge mineralization. All the drilling that we did in this campaign was in the top 300 meters, which, based on something that a pit that's sort of looking at around about 1 kilometre long, that's a conceptual open pit depth down to that 300 meters, and that's what this drilling was based on. So really, the holes that are in red there are the holes that we reported in the release from this week, with that highlight hole of 119 here, which was 52 meters at 2 grams gold equivalent. So that's basically was the concept behind this drill program, was just to prove that robust nature of the mineralization, that it is actually real, not just a geological interpretation, and confirm that plunging geometry that we talked about. So a really successful drill program from that perspective at BBM. So very, very happy with the way that went.
One of the purposes was to extend the strike length. Previously, I had to find a 600-meter core. Have you succeeded in extending the strike length?
Yeah, so I mean, even out here in green, the widths are still significant. They're sort of 20 to 30 meters at plus half a gram gold equivalent. So conceptually, that would still fit into an open pit. So we're very happy with the way it's gone, and we've of this 300 meter plunging chute. So effectively, we were talking about a 600 meter zone, like laterally, which would sit, roughly between where this hole to the eastern side of 122 is, out to sort of round about where 111 is. So you can see that the mineralization, it is slightly lower grade, but still more than half a gram. So they would still fit into a conceptual open pit, we think. So the entire mineralized zone has increased, and the other thing that the drilling has done is confirm the robust nature of this core 300 meter higher grade zone within that, that's plunging off, and then there is and even up the highest grades. Unfortunately, I can't talk about what the gram meters are, because I've been asked by the exchange not to talk in gram meters, which is particularly frustrating when you're trying to explain these things. But yeah, this core 300 meter zone is extremely robust and very good grade, and so that supports a much broader open pit, which would envelop the slightly lower grade or greater than half gram material that sits outside that core zone. So BBM's looking really nice as an open pittable resource one day.
Has the mineralization been capped off to the southeast, or the strike being capped off to the southeast now?
Look, yeah, these zones are still mineralized, but the grade does drop off toward at those margins, so where these holes are out here, 123, 125, and out here, but they are still mineralized, and roughly, there's still sort of 10 to 20 meters wide mineralization there at greater than half a gram.
So in what directions is mineralization? It's open to at depth? Is it open to the northwest or along?
Yeah, so it's open at depth, and so it's definitely open at depth. And then there are the geochem anomalism does continue to the northwest and the southeast, And so the scout drilling program that we've just been doing has just put some scout drill lines across those anomalies where we'd interpret, where those anomalies matched up with our IP induced polarization interpretation. We've put drill lines across those. So we would view those as not part of this, I guess, BBM main. It's looking for potential satellite pits along strike from BBM. So from that perspective, the BBM structure is the mineralization is open along strike.
You have put some of the remaining 6 holes as weaker. Is that just because you haven't drilled there and you don't know what you will see, or is it telling us something?
Say that again.
The white holes have been put as not the white,
so
but the holes that are going to come.
So we've drilled those holes. We're just waiting for the results to come through. So we'll report they should come through in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be reporting those to market soon.
I just want to clarify that you don't expect them to be necessarily, lower grade.
But they are on those holes are, you can see from this long section that they are towards they are on the margins of that higher grade mineralization. 122 came back nicely, so maybe there's potential for some more good mineralization there. There is potential for more good mineralization there as well, I can't remember off the top of my head how thick the mineral. The mineralization is quite visual at BBM, so we do see the same alteration in those holes and sulfides. But based on the drilling that we have done, the grades are probably a little bit lower. The other thing about out here on the northwestern side is that there is the copper to gold ratio shifts towards copper. So you get you get these half-gram zones that are within there, but actually broader zones of copper mineralization as well. So we do view BBM as a gold and copper mineralization. So we haven't done the MET or anything like that yet. It is being done. Some early stage MET, and also when you actually start to model these things using resource modeling kind of software, you can actually start to build a copper model as well as a copper model, a moly model, and a gold model as well, and then you marry those into what would be a resource and a potential pit around those as well. So there is still significant potential on that western side as well.
Perfect. So there is some zonation to the copper mineralization, because you have seen quite impressive grades, 0.5 to 0.7 percent copper, and also over 400, at least over 300, 400 ppm moly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And look, there is a good. Some of the very high grade copper, or the high grade copper that we've got, is also within this core plunging chute. There is almost a 1-to-1 ratio, where there is high moly, there tends to be high gold as well. But like I said, out here, the gold grades seem to go down, but the widths of plus 0.3% copper mineralization are quite significant out in this on this western side. So that's what I'm talking about. So that once you start modeling these things as gold, copper, and moly, we think that there's potential that this will look quite nice as well, even though the gold grades are not as high as, of course, in the core zone and down here on the eastern side.
And then the question is, if you do a follow-up program here, why drill deeper when you can test other targets on the joint venture permit or test more targets on the BBM Trend?
Just because we want to see if there is any further underground potential at this target. I mean, there's an opportunity to look at that we see that as an opportunity as well. So that's the reasoning behind that. There is confidence that the plunge is there, and the mineralization will keep going. So it makes sense to put some holes into it.
Do you have any idea what kind of grades you need to see underground? I mean, say 350 or deep meters vertical or deeper for it to be have any potential for economic viability?
Yeah, so look, it depends on widths as well and how it ends up getting underground mined. But plus 3 to 4, plus something that's over 3 to 4 grams has underground potential.
Perfect. So then, when do you expect to release the first metallurgical test works for BBM?
I would hope that we get, metallurgy testing takes quite some time. So it is actually in the Newmont lab in Denver that's being done, and I expect that we would start to see some results next month. But I do need to get an update from them on when that expected time is.
What recovery methods are you trying, by the way?
Really, this is looking at. I guess the key thing at the moment is understanding what we would call deportment, which is, how the gold sits with the copper. The fact that it is just gold chalcopyrite, or most of the sulfides are gold chalcopyrite. Not gold sulfide, pyrite, chalcopyrite plus gold and moly. So we think that there's potential that gold would be able to be extracted on site, and then for the copper and moly, you're looking at flotation amenity. But generally, chalcopyrite and molybdenite float quite well, creating a copper moly concentrate.
Awesome. So there's potential for doré for the gold.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
so
good. So let's move to.
We don't think that the gold would be caught up in any sulfides like that. It doesn't look like that. There's no arsenopyrite or any of those sort of minerals that gold can get caught up inside. The metal, like the sulfide species and distribution, it looks pretty benign. But we'll see what the met brings back. But we think it's pretty good.
So Fremen, you're 100% own target. You drilled 2,000 meters RC across 22 holes. What do you have at Fremen? What is Fremen?
Yeah. So just quickly, just a quick reminder on, because we've talked about BBM satellites as well. So the Fremen target sits down here. It's about 4 to 5 kilometers, depending on where you are within the target, from the BBM discovery, which sits in the middle of this circle. And so on this scale, where we've drilled at BBM is not that entire circle. It sits in the middle of it. So the BBM satellite drilling that we did comes out a long strike from that, and then also down between the BBM discovery and coming down towards Fremen. So the RC rig started here at Fremen, did our 4 lines at Fremen, worked its way up through the BBM shear, and then we as I mentioned, we haven't drilled Bobber and Fett yet. We want to do some that extra 10% to make sure that we're drilling as few holes as possible from a budget perspective to get the right result. So we're doing that extra 10%, and the drilling on those 2 targets will come a little bit later on. So, but now I'll just bring up an image and zoom in on the Fremen target. So I'm going to bring up some IP, which goes through Fremen and then out into that southern margin of the IP. So there's that BBM area there. The white line here is where we've mapped out the trend of BBM based on the IP. It's not just from this chargeability image; it's using a combination of images. And then you can see there's it turns and then comes down through these Fremen targets here, and then there's kind of a bifurcation or a step over and another potential trend just there where that line P4 is. So each one of those black lines on there, P1, P2, P3 and P4 are drill lines with sort of 3 to 5 holes, something like that on each one of those lines to make up the 22 holes that we drilled. And to be honest, after looking at all that, just before the rig went up to Lando, we've drilled 2 or 3 more holes where we thought that the geology looked interesting, and there might be some gaps in the fences that we did. So now I think it's up to 25 holes that we've drilled now for another sort of 250, 300 meters at Fremen. So the 2100 that we reported is now sort of somewhere between 23 and 2400 meters. But yeah, so it's scout drilling. It's not, it'd be wonderful if we get, if you do get in the results, some significant widths that are over a gram, but really we're trying to find that structural trend. And so if we get, 10 or 20 meters, something like that, more hopefully, but 10 or 20 meters that's over half a gram, we feel like we've got something that we can follow up. You can see on the scale there that it's a very long way. Those 4 lines are drilled, quite far apart. And but if we get a sniff on any of those, we've got something that we can follow up. And the initial follow up that we would do is to drill a diamond hole on where it was. So there might be a couple of diamond holes that we drill, and then we would start to step out along strike from those intercepts, trying to either find a better zone if it is sort of half gram material, but yeah, it is scout drilling. So we're just trying to find where we are as far as building a target at a proper discovery at Fremen.
What alteration have you seen in the RC ships?
Similar alteration to BBM. So the system probably. I mean, we expected to not. The copper anomaly down here is not as high order as the copper anomaly in the geochemistry of BBM, and that what I saw in the chips that's reflected. There is chalcopyrite around, but not as much as BBM. But there's, we've seen pyrite as the dominant sulfide. There is intrusions that are foliated that look similar to BBM in the chips. And in this release, we did talk about the fact that we found float of BBM hanging wall looking rocks, and so that's been confirmed in the drilling as well. And then it's the same alteration, which is potassic alteration, hematite dusting of feldspars, which is the same as sort of around BBM as well, and then silicification. So the combination of those is very similar to BBM, and so that's encouraging as a first pass at this stage.
So when will you know internally, and when will you let the market know if you choose to follow up with a diamond rig here?
Once we see the gold results, which we would expect to come through sometime this month. And
this month, like March, or this month, like April?
Sorry, in the next sort of 4 weeks. So in April, those results come through. Yeah.
So let's move to Charger. Yeah, this was the one I meant. So how long is this Betcha corridor, by the way?
So it's about 200, like where the red is. So the red on the drill traces is about 200 meters.
It looks longer, by the way. I don't know. When I take that scale bar and add it up in my head, it looks like it's at 300 meters. The red
Yeah,
from
no, well, we're
top to
from,
bottom.
it's about 200 meters to what we've got there, but it is open. Yeah, so, but we'll see. And when we put out the news release, we will be introducing some new exploration ideas as well. At Charger, we think there's potential for other zones the same as this one.
So 12 holes, 2,500 meters completed. Could you tell us what was the purpose of the drilling and where have you put the holes?
Sure. So we're looking at a three-dimensional plan view here. So it's not cut at a particular level or anything like that. So you can see the entire holes. And the interpretation has been that we've got this northeast trending corridor, which is delineated by those two bounding red lines. And then what I've plotted in here is just where we've intercepted breccia downhole. And then I've highlighted OED 88, 100, and 83, which are the three higher grade holes that we published. And 85 intercepted breccia. It wasn't quite as high grade, I think, but we got a significant width at between 3 and 5 grams, I think it was, in that one as well. So those four particular holes are sitting right here, and the midpoints of those holes were effectively all at the same level. So we would call it an RL, or a relative level from it's actually above sea level, but so surface is around about a bit over 400. I think it's about 430 to 450 meters at Charger, and then where those holes intercepted was on 325 RL. So the first the first holes that we drilled were targeted on that 325 RL. So a step out here into the middle here, and then we also were looking to see to come a little bit along to the northeast as well. So two of the holes in the last program were dusters. They were 86 and 87, I think those holes were, and so when we re-looked at those based on our fold model and a very flat plunge to the high-grade mineralization, we figured those holes had actually missed. So we put another hole in here, quite close, still only sort of 20 to 30 meters away, but we've hit breccia like we've hit the breccia in that hole. And then this step out here, we've hit the breccia again. And then, so based on that, we've drilled holes. So that's that 325. We've drilled holes above that, using this northeast trend as a guide. So we've hit mineralization above here now as well. The little geology side talk on that is that the mineralization changes in these upper levels between what's on that 325 RL. So we've seen mineralization that looks a lot more like the original discovery hole in RC89 back in 2021, 2022. So there is more polymetallic mineralization. So we see a lot more chalcopyrite, pyrite, and pyrrhotite higher up. And then as we come down towards that 325 RL, the sulfides drop off, and we get it tends to be we see more chunks of visible gold and things like that. So that campaign has been successful in seeing mineralization at that 325 RL and then above, slightly different style, but still following that interpreted geometry, which was really good for us. And then so what we did extend the program, and then what we've done now is drill underneath. So we've stepped downwards in RL from that 325 and have been intercepting breccia target, and some of them are quite significant widths of that breccia again. Last year we reported this hole here, which is actually this hole here is actually quite deep. It's nearly it's about 150 metres below that 325 RL. But we did hit quite a lot of breccia, but it was quite coarse. The breccia that we've hit in the step downs is not so coarse. So there's a lot more matrix material. There is the silica that we saw in 80, 88 and 100 as well. So you know they're quite interesting looking holes from that perspective, and so yeah, very happy with what we've seen, and so that flat lying plunge to the higher grade mineralization. Look, we've got to wait to see the results, but you know it looks like there is sort of two controls to mineralization. So that northeast strike, which has got a very steep dip, and then within that there appear to be flat lying higher grade zones. So a successful drill campaign at Charger, and we just need to see what the results are going to bring through. But yeah, we're happy with what we've seen, and we feel like we might have cracked the code on that geometry now. So that's pretty exciting stuff for us.
Has the fold model helped?
Yeah, definitely, because it gave us that flat lying plunge. Yeah, definitely helped. Yeah.
And when do you expect results?
Again, next month, we should start getting some results through. I just, you know, again, we'd like to have a series of holes to put out for Charger to make sure that we've got a story that the market will understand. With BBM, it's so consistent that it's easy to put out results on a hole by hole basis. So we would like to see at least to get all the results from that upper drilling, along with those initial 325 RL holes for a result, and then you know the deeper ones we've only finished recently, so they'll be further down the track.
Okay, so Empire, could you summarize the target, what you have learned from it?
Sure. So Empire, I mean, Empire was the first discovery on the project, and you know we got some significant high grades from Empire, quite a few plus 100 gram meter intervals. So you know the best of those being, you can see it there at 15 meters at 13 grams per ton, and so the idea of so what you're looking at here again is another long section. So it's cut through all the drilling and looking at where the drilling has intercepted the mineralization, and so we drilled this as Awalé, and you know it's not Empire. The footprint of Empire again is not big. So you know from end to end, we're talking about 250 to odd meters, maybe 300 in some places. But the drilling that we had done, we were really focused on making sure that we hit fresh rock mineralization, and so a lot of the drilling is sort of below, below 50 meters below surface, 50 to 100 meters below surface. So you can see in here there are no pierce points in this zone. So a pierce point is one of these dots. So the drilling that we did is a series of 6 holes that sits up in here, and because they're so the idea between that was, okay, let's get some infill and see what the mineralization looks like when it's shallower. It looks like the deeper drilling that we've done anyway, which is great. And then also try and confirm that plunge that we put on there, which is again, albeit steeper, but it's a plunge towards the northwest. And so I think we've been successful in those 2 points, and we've seen similar mineralization in this upper zone. So it's the same. It's sort of bringing that drilling into roughly 100 meter pierce points in that upper zone, and so that's sort of resource development drilling as well as confirming our geology at Empire. So we've done both, confirmed the geology and the plunge, we think. And so, yeah, we're happy with that drilling at Empire. And we were really, Empire's been sitting on the shelf, waiting, as, a potential, higher grade, this is pre-Charger, so the grade's not as good as Charger, but still some really quite nice grades in there. So, potential material that's over 3 grams per tonne that can be, could potentially be mined. And so, we think, down to that sort of 100, 125 metre vertical depth, which is what this arrow is here, there's potential there for maybe, 100,000 ounces at plus 3 grams per tonne, which, when the mineralization is from surface, that's, that's something that would still fit well within a global resource inventory for the project. So, one of the things that we are thinking about now is the fact that, within the joint venture, Newmont does need to meet the terms of the joint venture. There needs to be 2 million ounces on the project. There's no categorization on that 2 million ounces. So we're working away. That's the thing. So we're working away towards that because it is part of their of the expectations of the earn-in agreement. So that's why we've finally come back to Empire, because we're starting to think about things from that perspective as well with Newmont. So so that's where we are with Empire, and you can see there we it's I couldn't remember exactly what it was when we spoke earlier, but we drilled 1,168 meters, quite shallow meters, in 6 holes. In that top 120 meters, sort of focused in, here where all these gaps are, in that sort of red or reddish pinky zone that we've got. So look, I think we'll see some good results from Empire as well, and it's good to confirm that mineralization is there and confirm that plunge. So there is, at those kind of grades, there is potential. There is underground potential at Empire as well. So those thoughts will definitely be there about whether we do deeper holes at Empire as well. And the other thing to remember is this is our first discovery. So we understand the system a lot better now than we did a few years ago. And so we have other ideas for extension targets at Empire too, based on what we know. And so that can potentially come into play, further down the track for, I wouldn't call them new discoveries, but extensions to the Empire discovery.
Is mineralization open in any other direction besides at depth?
Yeah, so that's the idea, is that there would be potential offset targets to the Empire sits on a similar orientation to BBM actually, but it's a 10 to 15 kilometer long west trending structural corridor. So we think there's, with the better understanding we've got around the geology and structural framework now, that there is potential for offset targets at Empire as well, in that west northwest, east southeast orientation from the Empire discovery.
How far away is that offset from the discovery?
Oh, close by. We're talking within hundreds of meters. That entire 15-kilometer corridor is actually open as well. And the early stage RC drilling that we did as Awalé, like pre-joint venture, there were drill hits in similar geology, isolated drill hits, but drill hits in similar geology, up to a couple of kilometers along strike from Empire, which have never been seriously followed up.
So are you looking to follow up on, is that where the next follow-up program go? Not at depth, but along the corridor?
Look, we'll see where it lands. But it is there, and we haven't motivated for that yet with Newmont. But it's again, everything always comes down to budget and what the I guess the reward is from that budget. So we'll see where we are, but it's not going to be in the next round of drilling. So not this half, that's for sure.
Okay, so Lando, could you summarize Lando as a target? What similarities, difference does it have to BBM?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Lando is effectively a long strike from BBM, so there is a major structure there, and which we interpret to go all the way out through Guinea and up into Western Mali. And sort of BBM sits on a subsidiary of that structure on the northeastern side, if you like, and Lando is on the other side, on the western side of that structure. The map geology is we do have intrusions up there, but what we've mapped is mostly actually basalts and sediments. But from the magnetics and IP geophysics, there are some intrusions, some late intrusions kicking around there as well. So they could be an important part of the story as well. But Lando would be, roughly 10 or 12 kilometres a long strike from BBM, not that far away in the scheme of things. But it is a 4 kilometre long gold, copper, molybdenum anomaly, and the image that you can see there is gold on the left and copper on the right, and on the copper image, this darker hatch is delineating where the molybdenum in geochemistry anomaly was, and the blue one, there's a bit of arsenic. All our targets do have arsenic associated with them as in the geochemistry. It's the grade of them is usually quite low order. I mean, you do get the odd one here. It says up to 880 is the highest value, but on average, it's in the 15 to 30 ppm range. But that's higher than where there is no mineralization. And that's actually a good thing because it's still a good pathfinder, but it also means that there is unlikely minerals like arsenopyrite, which can be a bit mean when it comes to metallurgy. So that's a bit of an aside, but so Lando, it's you can see the copper and gold anomaly there is actually quite robust. It is at least 4 kilometres long, particularly in the copper anomaly. There's a higher grade core to the copper anomaly, which does overlap with the gold in here, and so we've done some IP here as well. You can see where it says IP area. What we did in between this geochemistry in the current drill program is that we did do some pitting to make sure that the geochem target was real. It's mostly soil sampling here, not termitaria, and there is some from the pitting. We've identified the fact what we suspected is maybe there is some valley floor or colluvial anomalism in some of the gold, and so we have, but generally the anomaly, well, the anomaly is still robust and 4 kilometres long. There are just some zones within that are transported from not far, basically down slope, maybe 100 metres from the actual anomaly. But that just helped us target our drilling. And so effectively, I'll show you the IP image next. But this zone in here, the core 2 kilometres, which roughly coincides with the better, the greater than 200 ppm, copper anomaly, and the greater than 87 ppb gold anomaly, is where we've put in these scout drill fences. in the current program. So so that's where that sits, and we think there's really good potential for another discovery here. So this drilling will be the proof in that pudding, but we're expecting to see a combination of basalts, sediments, and hopefully some intrusions as well in this drilling, with probably a similar silicification and potassic alteration system that we would we've seen at our other targets. Just I'll quickly pop on and just flash up the chargeability image there. So we did do IP, and sort of this zone here is a resistive chargeable anomaly, which is good. The outcropping geology is basalt, but we do have some sediments as well. But that resistive chargeable anomaly may be indicating the fact that there is that silica alteration as well, along with sulfides, which is similar to BBM, just slightly different host rocks. And so when you look at the cross sections where we've done pole dipole lines, we get these things called pseudo sections. You can see that there is some significant chargeable anomalies, which we think probably relate to sulfides. And these sorts of things in chargeability that have very low chargeability, they're probably intrusions in the system. So we're hoping to sort of confirm that interpretation from the IP and mapping that we've done, and see some nice sulfide mineralization with chalcopyrite, molybdenite, and pyrite, along with some gold. And then these higher grade rock chip samples, 4.8 and 3.0 grams per ton, they're from the mapping, and they are, those higher grade ones are actually from there's some very small artisanal workings kicking around where they've put shafts down, and they've been mining brecciated quartz veins, and those samples have returned those gold grades. So, the what we've seen on surface kind of confirms, or shows up what we think might be what is showing up in those IP surveys. So that's all really positive stuff, and we'll just see what the drilling brings back. And so some of those diamond holes that are up on, you can see the topography here. It doesn't look that aggressive in this, but it is actually quite steep. But some of those diamond holes are very much targeted at these anomalies, as well as the RC holes, which drill out across the valley. In not in that east-west orientation, but in a northeast orientation that is perpendicular to the main trend of geology.
So you have outcropping mineralization here, in other words.
Yeah. So I mean, even this one here, that 0.4 gram ton, that's just from chlorite and silica altered basalt in outcrop. Not from artisanal mine workings.
So where are you drilling? You're drilling 3 fences, 2.6 kilometers, 25 holes. Where's that?
Yeah, so the 3 fences are roughly in this zone here, in that core, a couple of kilometers that come across through here to the northeast. So we feel like we're testing the core of the anomaly there, and that should tell us really give us an idea of what's going on at Lando.
How does the hole vary in depth? For all around 100 meters?
Yeah, so the RC holes are planted sort of 80 to 100 meters, and when we say it's a system fence, they're effectively drilled. Some people call it heel to toe, others call it top to tail, where the bottom of the first hole you drill, the top of the next hole is pretty much, there's a slight overlap on where they are. So the idea is that if things are steeply dipping, you don't miss things. As I mentioned, the diamond holes are up on the hill here, and so they're planned to cover off and get in behind as far as the RC drilling goes, but also start to look at these IP targets that, I always say geophysics is a bit of a black box, and those those kind of targets are, you don't know what they are until they drill them. But we do have holes that are targeted into those, so we know what they are.
Is there any risk that the target is deeper than anticipated and you miss it because of shallow drilling?
I don't know. I don't think so. You would always see something. The grade might not be as high. We do have, Charger, for example, increases in grade with depth from the shallower drilling that we've done. BBM saw a slight increase in grade with depth. Empire maybe not, but I don't think you would miss things. I think you would still pick it. So what we're really trying to do is go, righto, what's the geology that's actually controlling that big geochem footprint? And I think the program that we've got designed will tell us that, and then if we will know where to do follow-up diamond drilling in that lower lying area based on the RC drilling.
And when do you expect drill results?
Well, it's going to be the last of the whole lot. So we're just finishing up this month. So that's sort of into May.
Do you know what kind of budget you will have, or for drilling in the post wet season? So in the fall.
Look, I'm not 100% sure on that at the moment. I would expect that I think we're driving towards the end of the earn-in for Newmont. So drilling does need to be done to make sure that we give ourselves the right amount of drilling based on the fact that we need to deliver for Newmont 2 million ounces. And I think this quarter there's been a significant amount of discovery drilling alongside resource development drilling, which will warrant. I'm sure that we'll get some of that. Will warrant follow-up drilling in the second half of the year as well. The other thing that because between us and Newmont now that there is confidence in the intrusion, or at least partially intrusion-related nature of the mineralization and magmatic fluids, we will likely fly airborne gravity gradient at a minimum over the Odienné East permit, but potentially at least part of the Odienné West permit as well. That's not cheap, but it'll be a really interesting data set on targeting around late intrusions. So that will also become part of the greater budget for 2025 as well.
And
then, on the 100%, as soon as those two permits are granted to the north of us, which is imminent, we will get permitting to fly airborne magnetic radiometric surveys. And look, when we did the detailed mag on Odienné East, that was, that really helps us hone in on our geochem interpretation in relation to a structural framework. So we can't wait to get that done on the 100% ground as well.
Perfect. And could Sceptre East come into play this year?
Sceptre East. Look, the motivation is always sitting there for drilling at Sceptre East. It's just where it fits into a budget. But yeah, so maybe in the second half, I'll say maybe.
And when do you think you will know internally if Newmont decides to continue exploring Odienné post the 75% earned in?
Yeah, look, I don't, sometime, well, internally, sometime in the next 6 months, I would say. But there will be discussions on, there definitely will be discussions between Awalé and Newmont over the next 6 months about, what the future holds, because, as the managing company, we need to know where we are with running the project and keeping the project active and making sure that we're progressing the project over the next couple of years.
So where do you envision Awalé resources at the end of this year?
Oh, look, well, like I say, I think we'll be getting pretty close to understanding what an inventory, a metal inventory is for the targets or the discoveries, the better discoveries that we have made. I think we'll have made new discoveries, and I think we'll be, the bigger the bigger picture for the 100% Awalé permits is that we have a timeline set out at this stage to have a series of drill-ready targets by the end of the year on those 2 permits to the north of us. So that's pretty ambitious as well. But it really looks like we should get those permits granted very soon. It really is nearing the end of that journey. So we'll be really working hard to build targets on those for Awalé to be drilling. If we're lucky, late this year, sort of December, but definitely in the first quarter of next year.